Hey everybody, this is James from TeaDB bringing you another Inbetweenisode. So today I am bringing on another Yangqing Hao tea as far as revisiting some of these. So I am actually releasing a sort of a retrospective on Yangqing Hao, specifically on some of the less expensive options, not the ones that are like $300, $400 a cake, but more in the mid-range, those that are around 50 cents a gram or a bit less. And so it's a little bit shorter than the previous Yangqing Hao pieces, but revisiting a few teas and wanted to film some episodes on some of them. So today we have the 2006 Qixiang, and I want to be clear that I never bought this tea. It was a tea that was I've been generously gifted some amounts of it in the past, and I just consumed steep number 4. I have steep number 5 right here, and steep number 6 of the Qixiang. So this is a 2006 production. Those of you that know me know that I'm a fan of the 2007 productions for the price that they cost. So this is 2006. This is a 6 famous mountains blend. So for those of you not familiar, 5 of those 6 are in Mengla County, which is sort of known as Greater Yiwu area. So Monjuan, Yibang, Gedang, I'm probably butchering these, Yiwu, and then Yola is just west of Mengla County. So it's a bit of all of those different things blended together. This is supposedly a spring blend only. And I think one thing that can be noted about this tea is that sometimes people, especially those that haven't tried a lot of these, tend to paint Yangqing Hao with really broad brushstrokes, as if there's like a really singular profile. And to some extent that's true. To some extent, I guess. Just because they've all undergone a very similar Taiwanese, Tainan in this case, southern Taiwanese storage that's natural. It's sort of aged the teas in a really specific sort of way. And you can see sort of the color that these brew up, orangish red at times. And that's true. But there may not be as much diversity across the productions in this sort of time frame as something like white tea, but there is a difference. And I think those of you that have mainly tried the 2007s, this 2006 Qixiang is pretty different. I think it's a pretty different tea. It smells very differently than those teas. And I think those 2007s, the cheaper ones, the Lingya, the Qixiang, and the Jincha, they do have a specific profile that is somewhat similar to one another. They have sort of that darker, woody base to it that I personally really enjoy. Others are more a fan of something like this. So yeah, let's get into the Qixiang. I have talked enough about it. So this is a very long-lasting tea. So I still get pretty good aroma off of it. A little bit of florals. I'd say it's some fruit in there. It doesn't quite have that really dark base to it that some of the 2007s do have. Yeah, and this tea came from Young Storage maybe just half a year ago, I think. So here we go, guys. There's a little bit of bitterness. It's mainly soft. The bitterness doesn't last very long. There's some astringency, but it's pretty light. I'd say it's lighter than the 2007s, which tend to have a more typical astringency. And there's a certain quality to this that's almost like I wrote this down this word down before when I was taking notes on this tea. It's almost like ethereal about this tea, that its qualities, it's a little bit less tangible, a little bit less like flavor oriented than some of the 2007 teas, which I keep comparing these to because it's sort of in that same price range if you calculate the dollar per gram. So a little fruity, pretty soft overall. There's a little bit of astringency, and then that astringency converts pretty fast to sweetness. sort of the back of the mouth and in the throat. I'd say it has a brighter taste overall. It's not as dark, it's maybe it's definitely like a different structure to it. So if you were sampling some of the cheaper ones, I would say that sampling something like this is an interesting contrast to the 2007s. Try both to see where your preferences do lie. For me, I prefer the 2007s that have more of a, I don't know, I think they taste more like standard Iwu teas, and I guess maybe that's to be expected considering this is a blend. And I do like some of the teas from 2006, but the 2007s taste quite different from this. Okay, so steep number 6. So here I'm getting a bit more of that fruit to it. There's a touch of sourness to it. All of the sourness and the astringency converts pretty fast. The thickness, I'd say, is pretty above average. There's sort of the woody taste to this is really inherently different from the more, I'd say, typical Iwu woody taste I get from the 2007s. But there's I don't want to call it like pavement or asphalt, but it's a little bit in that vibe of sort of like, I don't know, yeah. It's sort of in that profile of which doesn't sound like a very appealing note, so I'm trying to think of how to word it a little bit more appropriately. But the profile of it, the base taste of it, is something kind of like along that, combined with sort of like ripened fruits. Yeah, still going along just fine. I'm just still brewing it for maybe 10 seconds, and in this pot right here, and it's quite strong still. Has some astringency. I think this tea also has a bit of body feel, and I think you'd notice that after a few steeps of it. So definitely an interesting one to try. I don't like it quite as much as the 2007s. The Hui Gan now starting to really coat the back of the mouth and the throat, and that's definitely a plus. And it's important to keep in mind that I'm not going to pretend like I can objectively judge teas completely, so it's important to keep in mind that it's my opinion. So I would rate this tea for myself a 6.5. I think it has some interesting qualities. I have no issue drinking it. I think 8 or 9 times out of 10 I'd choose to drink something like the Ling Ya instead, which has a flavor profile that is a little bit more agreeable to me. You can see this is still steeping out. Nice aroma. I'd say the aroma is probably a little bit more pleasant for those that like aromas in their tea. Let's see, did I miss anything? There's a bit of menthol and sort of a wet candied sweet smell to the tea early on that's nice. There's definitely one of the more bitter sessions I'm getting. Not that that's a bad thing. I think it's showing that the tea still has a pretty good amount of strength in it, which I consider to be a plus to it. But it's striking me as telling me that I probably shouldn't brew this too much harder than I already am. Getting a nice orangish red color off of it. So I think that just about concludes this episode. So again, a 6.5. So it has some special qualities. It's not something I would choose to drink like every day or anything like that. I think there are Iwu teas that, for me, they might be worse Iwu teas. They might not last as long as this tea, but I would just prefer to drink them sort of on the daily, a little bit more. This is a little bit atypical. I wouldn't say, it's hard to say how firmly this falls into sort of an Iwu category, but definitely more broadly sort of in that flavor profile rather than something stronger like a Boulong. Thank you guys for tuning in. Hopefully you found this episode enjoyable. Please give it a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and look out for that Yangqing Hao retrospective coming out this Saturday. And I will see you guys next time. Cheers.